Yo, what's up guys, it's your boy Sami here. Today we are gonna see, what if Naruto fell in love with Wendy Marvell, part 3. Hope you'll enjoy this video. So before we start, please subscribe to our channel, and like this video. So let's get into the video. Cobra gasped, having most of his remaining strength to fuel that roar, and this little brat with blonde hair was inhaling it. Wendy was absolutely horrified. She had seen some of that poison eat through solid rock, as though it was nothing during the fight between Natsu and Cobra, and now her best friend was sacrificing himself by consuming the same corrosive stuff to protect her. Charla, the instant Naruto jumped in front of her, had a flashback to a dream or vision she had had a few weeks ago, but didn't understand what the sight of Naruto standing before a wall of purple meant until now. Natsu was trying to move, but the combination of motion sickness and the residual poison in his system effectively paralyzed him, and made it impossible to cast any magic spells. He was really envious of Naruto and Wendy about their apparent immunity to motion sickness. Naruto meanwhile was feeling large amounts of pain, but compared to the crap he went through when he was still in Konoha, and maybe also some of Kurama's training sessions, so this was nothing new to him. Still, he carried on inhaling the poison. When he felt the poison beginning to affect his body, he summoned his magic and his chakra to combat it. He hoped that the magic nullification properties of his moon dragon slaying powers would lessen the bite of the poison, whilst his chakra both protected and healed him. He would be successful in both things, and more later on. Once the poison cloud disappeared, Naruto remained standing for a few seconds before falling onto his back. By now, Wendy was far too shocked to do anything. Charla couldn't believe her eyes. Natsu, whilst healed, was still suffering from motion sickness. Cobra, seeing the motionless figure of Naruto, began laughing and dissing Naruto. Wendy, hearing his words, felt a large amount of rage build up inside of her, as magical powers she didn't know had flooded her system. Hahaha. The stupid fool actually managed to eat all of my poison. Cobra laughed. He will be dead within the next 5 minutes. He was a weak trash, and he was interrupted by Wendy emitting a large amount of magical power, more than he had thought possible. What the hell? He gasped, taken completely aback by this new development. Wendy Charla stammered, realizing that Cobra had just pushed Wendy's button. Secret dragon slaying technique. Wendy began, making Cobra's already white eyes nearly pop out in shock. Piercing sky drill. Do not insult one of Wendy's friends in front of her, especially Naruto. The same with Naruto. Firstly, Cobra found himself surrounded by a wind wall. Shortly afterwards, she swung her arms in a circle, creating a horizontal tornado of concentrated sharp air blades smashing into him, dealing heavy damage, and leaving him out cold and bleeding from numerous small cuts. Wendy, seeing him coed, ran over to Naruto, healing magic seals already forming in her hands. Naruto, you idiot, Wendy began. Don't you dare die on me now, I still plan to spend the rest of my life together with you. Charla's eyes widened at the confession, but in truth, she wasn't really all that surprised. She had suspected Wendy's feelings for Naruto for quite some time, and out of all the people she knows, Naruto was probably the only one whom she would entrust Wendy's well-being with. You promised me that we will stay together till the end. Wendy continued. You're the next guild master after all. Wendy wondered why her magic was not having any effect on Naruto, at least not as much as it should have, not by a long shot. Loud laughter from the side made her look up, paling when she saw Brain standing there, only he looked different somehow. Add to that, the amount of magic power pouring from him was just enormous. So this trash was taken out by a little weak girl. Brain smirked. And this brat managed to consume a massive amount of his poison, impressive for worthless trash. He laughed loudly. Naruto. Wendy. A group of voices shouted. Brain, Wendy, and Charla turned their heads to see Gray, Lucy, and Jura running towards them, the former and latter charging up magic circles, and Lucy, wondering how the hell she got caught up in this mess again. More trash. Brain said, sending a massive beam of black magic towards the approaching team. Jura created a rock wall to block it, only for Brain's magic to pierce through it, hitting him squarely. Jura-san. Gray and Lucy shouted, looking back at where their comrade was being hit by the magic. Beggin. Brain sent more attacks towards Gray and Lucy, only for a vortex of fire to intercept both beams. Fire Dragon's roar. Natsu roared through open mouth, pouring more magic into his attack and moving his head. Brain smirked as the flames engulfed him. Happy. White cat. Natsu shouted, ending his roar. Get Wendy and Naruto out of here. As if I'd let you. Brain said, pointing a pair of fingers at the prone form of Naruto and Wendy sitting next to him. Double Dark Rondo. He sent a pair of magic attacks at the pair of Dragon Slayers. Natsu fought against the stiffness in his joints in order to come in between the Dragon Slayers and the incoming magic, but was way too slow. Gray's eyes widened, knowing that his fastest magic wouldn't be able to make it in time. Lucy had no instant cast attack magic at her disposal, and she was too far away for her whip to be of any use. Jura was underneath a pile of rubble, though he was digging himself out, so he didn't see what was going on. Kurama was about to jump in, when movement made him stop. Meanwhile, the place Nirvana was approaching. Master, what is going on? The guild member asked. The mistakes of my past have come to haunt us, I am afraid. Master Raubel of Kate's shelter said. Nirvana has been unsealed. Back on Nirvana, hanging from a jagged outcrop on one of the towers that dot the city, Ichi awoke and began screaming like a girl, seeing the floor far below him. Eventually he calmed down and began looking for a way down. That was when the log his hands and feet had been tied to, and that had been preventing him from falling, broke. "Men!" Ichi screamed as he fell into the city below. Both Urza and Joel were carrying an injured Richard to safety after Urza curb stomped midnight a few minutes ago, when Joel sensed a massive amount of magic coming from ahead, and several screams and explosions shook the city. "Master Zero, the seal's been undone," Richard wheezed. "Leave me go save your friends. Are you going to be alright here?" Urza asked. Richard nodded painfully. Just then a pink and purple light engulfed an area quite some distance ahead, and to the side of their path. Back at the battle, no Kekai Naruto shouted, raising his arm whilst a pink barrier formed around him, and Wendy. Brain's attack connected with the barrier, only to be negated by its magic nullifying qualities. "Ho? Are you able to fight even with that amount of poison in your system?" Brain asked. "Who are you?" Naruto asked. "You are not Brain." "True. I am Brain's true persona. Name Zero, the true master of oration says. Now identified, as Zero said. But that doesn't matter to someone who is about to die anyway. I wonder about that," Naruto said, cutting Zero's laughing short. "I am alive, and I don't intend on dying anytime soon." Suddenly he began glowing with a pink and purple aura, his magical power skyrocketing. Wendy, Charlotte, Happy, and Natsu's eyes all widened, sensing what was going on. The fusion of poison and moonlight Charlotte began, not having expected this to happen. "Poison Moon Dragon," Wendy gasped. What no one was noticing other than Kurama was that Naruto was using his chakra as a medium to keep the mixture of poison and moon magic stable, though this would have consequences in the future. "Zero, you have made a big mistake," Naruto said, before inhaling a large amount of air. Poison Moon Dragon's roar, a huge beam cloud of pink and purple erupted from his mouth, heading straight at Zero. His smirk dropped when he realized that he'd have to put some effort into dodging this attack. He had barely landed when Naruto appeared next to him, legs spinning in for a kick. "I seem to have underestimated you," Zero said, catching the kick, much to Naruto's shock. "However, I won't do that again." He raised his other hand where several runes appeared. "Can't really believe this front is making me use a trump card, but oh well." "Magic sealing formulae," he said, slamming his free hand into Naruto's stomach, making the young blonde dragon slayer cough up blood, and losing control of his poison moon mode, as well as his chakra, allowing the poison in his system to run rampant. Yabasa Naruto fell unconscious. Zero chuckled before throwing him at Wendy, knocking the both of them through several buildings and walls. Zero turned his attention back to the two other mages who were still conscious. "Now where were we?" he asked menacingly, cracking his knuckles. He left them, and Charla lying there in a bloody mess. Kurama meanwhile was nowhere to be seen. A few minutes later, Urza and Joel arrived where Naruto and Wendy were lying in a pile underneath some rubble. "Wendy? Naruto?" Urza shouted, clearing the rubble and laying the two properly on the floor. After a while Wendy stirred, having received the least amount of damage of the two of them, only a concussive impact v crush thrown into U-Express. What happened?" Wendy asked, before the details of the fight came back to her. "Naruto. Don't worry, he is right next to you," Urza said, grabbing her shoulders and pointing to Naruto. "Oh, thank God." Wendy sighed in relief. Quickly charging up her magic, she ran a diagnostic spell on Naruto before healing the damaged areas. "That will be a problem," Joel said, pointing at the runes on Naruto's stomach. "What are those?" Urza asked. Zero hit him with something called a magic sealing formula. Wendy explained, making Urza's eyes widen in surprise. "What did Naruto do to him for him to do this?" Urza asked in wonder at how strong the boy could be. "Well, Naruto." Wendy was interrupted when Nirvana suddenly fired a gargantuan blast of magic before an explosion rocked the city. Number SCATIC number Neros. Wendy, Joel, and Urza suddenly heard in their heads. "Is anyone still conscious down there?" "Hibiki-san?" Wendy asked. "Finally, we found someone," Hibiki said. Judging by the sound of his voice, he was exhausted. "What is going on?" Urza asked. Hibiki explained to Wendy's horror that Nirvana had just tried firing a cage shelter, but they bombed one of its legs to throw the aim off course. He then explained the method on how to destroy Nirvana once and for all, which involved destroying 6 large objects simultaneously. The quick head count showed that there were too few people conscious, but after a small pep talk by Urza, Natsu, Gray, Lucy, and Ichiya woke up. Hibiki, using the last of his power, uploaded a map and a timer into their heads, the map showing their location, and that of it, and the timer showing the estimated time it'll take for Nirvana to charge up another shot. Natsu, smelling Zero at Lacrima 1, volunteered to go there and beat the shit out of him. Meanwhile, Naruto's mindscape. Naruto groaned as he woke up lying in a field. "Where am I?" he asked. "Inside your mindscape, kid," he heard a familiar voice say. Turning around, he came face to face with Kurama in his full size, towering over him. "Kurama, what are you doing here?" "What do you mean, my mindscape?" Naruto asked. Listen, when you got hit by that ceiling attack by that Zero freak, I had to return into the seal you carry in order to save your ass from the poison you had ingested. Luckily your body has by now created some semblance of antibodies against it, but there was still quite a lot of damage. Kurama explained. It'll take a while, but once I am done fixing you, I'll return to the outside world. But well, I will leave it to you then, Naruto said before looking around. How do I get out of here? Kurama stared at the young blonde before sweat dropping, realizing that this was the first time they met in his mindscape. Easy way or hard way? Kurama asked. Huh? Naruto was confused. Easy way. Kurama nodded, and tried to hide his smirk before giving Naruto a flick with one of his massive fingers, completely destroying the mental avatar, and sending Naruto back into consciousness. Been wanting to do that for ages now, Kurama said in triumph. A few minutes later, the timer was reaching 0 when Wendy, and Charlotte, Ursa, Lucy, and Happy, Gray, Ichiya, and Natsu arrived at their respective lacrimans. Wendy turned to Charlotte. Are you sure I will be able to do this? The Dragon Slayer asked. This again? Charlotte asked. Sai, just do what Naruto or that idiot Natsu would do, Charlotte said, pointing first at Wendy, then at the lacrima. They would be calm, and would be trying to destroy this thing. At the moment with Natsu, Fire Dragon's roar. Natsu sent a blast of fire at Zero, who countered it with a blast of his own magic. This caused the Fire Dragon Slayer to get pissed off, and power up even more. Back to the word, but my roar isn't as powerful as Naruto, and Natsu's, Wendy said, before Charlotte bonked her on the head. Want me to tell Naruto that a complete wimp has a crush on him? Charlotte asked. Wendy turned beet red, before trying to glare at Charlotte, keyword being trying, as her face refused to lose its red color. I don't have a crush on him, she screamed. But wow, didn't know that Wendy was at sun near, Charlotte thought in amazement. Seeing that the timer was approaching 0, she decided to push her buttons a little bit. Charlotte flew in between her and the dot. But whilst you were healing him, you said, shut up, Wendy roared, whilst unconsciously using a full-powered dragon's roar at the same time. Oh shy, Charlotte did not have enough time to dodge the vortex of air heading right for her. This is going to hurt. Sure enough, when Charlotte emerged on the other side of the shattered, she was sporting a sizable lump on her head. Should have known better than to push her buttons, Charlotte thought, before losing consciousness. At the same time, Natsu, having gone into Dragon Force after Jal appeared, and gave him all of his power, went flying together with Zero through with his secret dragon slaying technique. Hidden fire form. Phoenix Blade. Unlike Charlotte, however, he didn't gain a lump on his head. Gray destroyed him with an ice bazooka. Quite a lot of firepower for something made from ice. Ursa donned her black winged armor, and slashed the crap out of her. Lucy, with the help of a now freed Gemini, summoned Taurus, who bulldozed his way through the pun not intended. Ichiya gave himself a power-up using one of his remaining perfumes, turning into a large macho man. They probably sensed something highly disturbing in the room, and began breaking before Ichiya punched it. And with all 6 destroyed, the Walking City super weapon lost its capability to remain functioning, including its ability to support its own weight. Lucy, following Gemini's nonchalant departure, after delivering their his or hers key to her, quickly summoned Horologium, and managed to get the hell out of Dodge before it was too late. Ichiya tanked the falling debris, and just ran, shouting men. All the time. Gray and Ursa ran, as though their life depended on it, or in Ursa's case, as though Ichiya was behind her, forgetting where the edge of the city was, and jumping over the edge, only to fall into the forest below. Natsu and Jal were saved by Hot Eye, who used his ground liquefaction magic to literally swim to safety. Wendy and Charlotte, however, were running to the nearest exit when the roof started collapsing in on them. Moon barrier, someone called, landing next to Wendy and the cat. A pink orb formed around the 3 of them, just as the ground gave way and everything fell apart. Once the dust had settled, everyone began heading towards the Cage Shelter Guild Hall, which wasn't far off, thankfully. Gray and Ursa met up on their way, and were about to head off once more when a pink glow caught their attention. What the hell is that? Gray asks, climbing over the debris to see what was making the light. Damn, this is a lot of Ursa. Gray suddenly shouted over to his friend. Ursa jumped over the debris, landing next to the ice mage. Her eyes widened at what she saw. Inside a glowing pink sphere, Naruto, Wendy, and Charlotte were all unconscious. Wendy and Charlotte didn't have any new injuries from what Ursa could see, but Naruto still looked as though he was poisoned, though at a much lesser level. Okay, what exactly happened here? Gray asked out loud, looking around. A sound akin to cracking glass brought both their attention to the pink sphere, which was starting to break. Let's get these 3 to their guild where they can rest, Ursa said. Though I wonder where Naruto's cat is. If what they said is true, then he is probably somewhere in the forest cleaning up the mess, Gray commented. Ursa shrugged. They could always go and look for Kurama later. 2 days later, morning, Naruto groaned as his muscles protested against any movement. Kurama had finished dealing with the poison the previous evening, then decided to leave it at that, leaving Naruto's naturally high recovery rate to finish the rest, knowing full well that it meant that Naruto would be stiff and sore for this entire day. Off to the side of the room, grinning like a loon, said Fox looked proud of himself, especially after he had told Wendy not to use her healing magic on Naruto at all. Said brunette was off on the other side of the room, feeling sorry for her best friend, but unable to do anything due to a certain promise she made to a several millennia-old demon. So instead, she was acting like a girl, and having Naruto try on several different types of clothes, all of which demanded him to move his body to get into. Who would have guessed that Wendy was slightly sadistic? Charla was on her lap, shaking her head at their antics. Suddenly she stiffened, her eyes glazing over, as though she had entered a trance. Just as quickly as it had started, it ended, and Charla was back to normal with something equivalent to about 10 seconds of HD video in the forefront of her mind. Something about a different world, her being royalty, and everyone turned into blue crystals. Kurama noticed the slight movement, but decided not to speak up just yet. It wasn't the first time he saw her freeze up like that, and each time her day was plagued by a bad mood. Okay, seriously Wendy, why are you trying to make my life miserable? Naruto said out loud, having just gotten out of the 7th dress she told him to wear. Consider it punishment for being an idiot. Wendy chirped. So mean. Naruto grumbled, before a thought hit him. Oh by the way, back on Nirvana, you were saying something whilst healing me. I kind of didn't get it, so could you repeat it please? Wendy looked down, as though thinking back, but Kurama could tell that she was blushing up a monstrous storm. Oh that was me ranting about you being an idiot, and all. Wendy said after successfully fighting back her blush, though some of it still remained in her cheeks. No spine. Charla thought to herself, knowing full well that it wasn't all just ranting that Wendy said at that time. Oh, okay. Naruto said, accepting her words. She hasn't ever lied to him before, at least not without reason, so why should she lie now? Wendy released a sigh of relief at his words. Kurama smirked, and Charla stared at Naruto, then remembered that Naruto was pretty dense by nature. Anyway, I think the third outfit fits you best. Wendy said with a smile. Oh, okay, which one was that again? Naruto asked, looking at the pile of clothes next to him. One of the ones in that pile. Wendy said, then smirked when Naruto started putting on the clothes once more. Charla shook her head in slight amusement, before jumping off Wendy's lap, and walking out of the door, saying she's just going to see how the others are doing. Kurama stayed, and enjoyed the sight of Wendy using Naruto, as a living dress-up doll. Meanwhile a few rooms down from them Lucy and Sherry were having a competition of sorts on who can wear the cutest clothes, with Lucy wearing something that would make the cover page for the Weekly Sorcerer magazine. Something akin to a bikini top, and a loincloth attached to a skirt setup. Sherry was a lot more conservative, though the 3.5 peeping toms agreed that she was just as appealing. Urza just got herself a set of fresh clothes from her pocket dimension until Sherry and Lucy teamed up and got her to try on some of the dresses Kate's shelter was offering them. In the end she settled for a blue dress that was somewhat in between what Lucy and Sherry were wearing. The males from Lamia's Scale and Fairy Tail were all embroiled in a competition on whose outfit makes them look more badass. The 4 from Blue Pegasus weren't present, as they had backup suits for each of them, and they were busy peeping on a trio of girls. Later, outside of the guild hall, Rebel stood at the forefront of the entirety of the Kate's Shelter Guild with Wendy, Naruto, Kurama, and Charla at his side. Before him stood the representatives of the other 3 light guilds who had fought together with them to protect their home. After a rather short thank you speech, Jura, Urza, and Ichi thanked them for each of their respective guilds. Oh, and some of you are probably wondering if we are the descendants of Nervid, right? Rebel suddenly asked. I am sorry for hiding our legacy, as Nervid. Way to ruin the mood there. Happy said. It's not like we care at all. Natsu said. Everyone on his side agreed with him. Kurama, and I don't mind either. Naruto said. And I am sure that sentiment is shared by Wendy and Charla. The latter two nodded in agreement. Instead of relief, the face Raoul had showed him being deep in thought. Everyone, please listen to what I am about to say. The silence was only disturbed by the sound of a breeze rushing past them. To start, we are not the descendants of Nervid. Raoul said. Wendy and Naruto had identical reactions. Ha! Their eyes widened, and they stood up straighter. We are the Nervid themselves. Raoul continued. 400 years ago, it was I who created Nirvana. What? Lion called out, stunned. No way. Lucy said, equally stunned. 400 years ago. Happy and Natsu were clearly slower on the uptake. Naruto and Wendy were paralyzed in shock and growing disbelief. 400 years ago, in order to stop the war that was raging across the world, I created Nirvana, a magic that inverts light and darkness. Raoul resumed his monologue. Nirvana became our country, and for a time we realized peace. Using illusion magic, he created images around him of how things looked back then. However, great power will, without fail, give rise to a great power opposing it. The images started to darken. As much as Nirvana changed darkness to light, Nirvana itself became wrapped in darkness. By now everyone was catching on to what Raoul was saying, even Natsu, and that was saying something. It was to maintain balance. It was impossible to change people's personalities to light without limit. Raoul looked somber at this point. Just as light will rise to oppose the darkness, so too will darkness rise to oppose the light, without fail. Now that you think about it, Grace said, think back to when Sherry went apeshit crazy and evil for a moment, and Richard's change of heart. The images Raoul conjured depicted the buildings and people being covered in darkness. The darkness lost from the various peoples came back upon us nerved. By this time Wendy was shaking, and Naruto was close to it. It can't be, it was hell. Raoul said the images changed to several dark nerved fighting amongst themselves. Death and war was depicted in the following series of pictures. We killed each other until no one was left. The members of the guild's alliance were speechless. I am the only survivor. Raoul continued. Wendy looked ready to collapse to her knees. Well, at this point, that's not exactly right. Raoul continued. My physical body has long perished. I am not what you might call a spectral form now. Or rather a weak ghost trying to atone for his sins of the past. That did it. Naruto started shaking. Like it or not, he was scared of ghost stories. I watched over Nirvana for 400 years until someone appeared who would be able to destroy it. His face turned happy, as though a huge load had been lifted from his old shoulders. And now my role is finally over. What are you saying? Wendy demanded, tears forming in her closed eyes. Naruto was struggling to accept this, as well. Suddenly the guild members of Cage Shelter started glowing before disappearing. What is this? Wendy and Naruto asked. Everyone. You guys, Charla said. Kurama realized what had been going on, and couldn't help but feel sorry for the two young dragon slayers. As they continued to disappear, Wendy, Naruto, and Charla called out each of their names. I apologize for deceiving you. Raoul apologized. All the members of the guild are illusions created by me. Wendy and Naruto's eyes widened at that. Say what? Natsu shouted. Illusions with their own personalities. Lion asked. What incredible magic power. Jura commented. Eventually it was only Raoul left. I live alone in these ruins, protecting Nirvana. 7 years ago, a single boy came here. Wendy and Naruto gasped in surprise, realizing something. Please take care of these two. Raoul remembered the boy's words clearly. I couldn't turn down the request of that boy and his fierce honest eyes. Raoul explained. Even though I had promised myself I would stay alone. Flashback. Mister, where am I? Where's Naruto? Young Wendy asked, having just awoken. This is Raoul stammered, using his voice for the first time in ages. If you are wondering about the blonde boy who was brought here with you, he is right next to you. Wendy looked to the other side, and saw Naruto and Kurama lying there, still asleep. She sighed in relief. Where is Joel? Wendy asked. He said he was taking us to guild. Wendy began crying. The sheer cuteness and the crying effect from Wendy dealt a critical hit on Raoul, who instantly felt sorry for her. This is a guild, he said. This is a wizard's guild. That did it. Wendy instantly cheered up. With a pose that hid the fact that he was creating dozens of illusions, Raoul told her to come outside and have a look. Flashback end. And so I created an illusory family for Wendy, Naruto, and their friend, Kurama. Raoul finished his sentence. The guild was created for Naruto and Wendy. Lucy asked incredulously. Wendy was holding her head, shouting that she didn't want to hear this. Naruto was also holding his head, however, he was quiet and his eyes were glazed up. Charla just stood there with mouth hanging. Kurama, not wanting to seem like the odd one out, copied Charla. Wendy, Naruto, Chakra, and Kurama, you no longer need a foster family. Raoul said, pointing behind them, where the rest of the alliance stood. Don't you have real friends now? With that Raoul began glowing like the others. Wendy and Naruto both had puddles at their feet from the tears that fell down their faces. Your future has only just begun. Raoul said, sporting the happiest smile anyone had ever seen on his face in 400 years. As he began disappearing, Wendy ran towards him, shouting his name. Everyone truly, thank you. The disembodied voice of Master Raoul spoke his final words. I leave Wendy, Naruto, Charla, and Kurama in your hands. Naruto approached Wendy, and the two embraced, crying their hearts out. Even Charla shed a few tears. And Kurama continued copying her. Two visible guild emblems, one in blue, one in orange, both began disappearing, as well. Out of the 3 remaining guilds, 1/5 of the assembled mages 12+Y sympathized with the 2 dragon slayers and their friends, as everyone within Fairy Tail had at one point or another lost something or someone close to their heart. Urza looked at the others, and an unspoken conversation was spoken between them. They all nodded before Urza began approaching the kneeling, crying pair. Raoul was right. They no longer needed a foster family, they would find a real family in Fairy Tail, together with Charla and Kurama. Following the disappearance of the entire Cage Shelter Guild, Urza invited the pair of dragon slayers to Fairy Tail. When Lion tried to protest, Urza shut him up with a glare. Blue Pegasus didn't even try to protest, knowing full well that Naruto could probably single-handedly kick their ass, including Ichiya, unless it uses its perfume. Charla was glad that they at least would be safe in Fairy Tail. Kurama didn't mind, as long as a certain Reedy didn't use his friend as a living plushie. He'll burn her ass if she tries doing that. Next day, on the boat, Natus was happily running back and forth along the ship, proclaiming transportation to be the best until the effect of Troy wore off. Natsu, now suffering from extreme motion sickness again, asked Wendy to cast it again. Better not, Natsu-san. If I cast it over and over again it will lose its effectiveness. she said. Natsu meanwhile was standing to the side, looking over the railing out onto the sea. Well, we always thought that the motion sickness came from Natsu being a dragon slayer. Does this mean that you and Naruto get motion sickness? Lucy asked. I don't know about Naruto, but I have never had motion sickness before, Wendy said. What about you, Naruto? No answer. Naruto? Wendy asked. She approached her friend and touched his shoulder, only to recoil in shock. He is shaking violently. Then she saw his face, and it showed all the signs of motion sickness, and just then Naruto threw up, as well. Nobody could say anything. I guess it is a thing amongst male dragon slayers, Lucy said. Nobody had anything to say to that. Later, the group returned to Fairy Tail with Ursa's ass smoking somewhat, as though it set on fire, but nobody paid it any mind. Kurama had warned her before setting sail. Instead, everyone was looking at Naruto, who was wearing a white shirt with an orange tribal vest over that, brown baggy pants, and black sandals, and Wendy, who was wearing a green dress with diagonal lines crisscrossing it. Ursa was just finishing her story on how things went. And thus I invited Naruto, Wendy, Charla, and Kurama to join Fairy Tail. It's a pleasure, Wendy said, bowing. Naruto made the peace sign with his 10,000-watt smile that rivaled Natsu's. And of course Wendy made the male population go all haywire, due to cuteness and proximity, whilst Naruto sent the female population into a frenzy, all wanting to hug him. At least until Mikao asked Wendy how old she was. His answer was a punch to the face by Naruto. She's too young for you, you damn pedophile. He roared. Everyone was surprised at the strength the young boy carried, as he sent Mikao flying into the far wall. Just then Bisca picked Naruto up, and began strangling him in a hug, squealing like a fangirl the entire time. So cute, she squealed. Wendy never thought that she would use this technique Kurama once taught her, as even she admitted it was not one she wanted to use due to his perverse nature. Wine magic. Screw up, she murmured so quietly even Natsu didn't hear her. Below Bisca a magic seal appeared, startling everyone, and a strong gust of wind swept directly upwards. Bisca had to release Naruto in order to hold her skirt down, and save her dignity. Nobody shall make a move on him, but me, Wendy thought. Anyway, I bid Wendy, Charla, Kurama, and Naruto a hearty welcome, Makarov said, whilst using his Titan magic to extend his arm to hold a camera under a certain unfortunate greenhead skirt. Elzak did not like that, and began blasting the arm with his magic pistols. Off to the side, Lucy was welcomed back by an enthusiastic Levy. Jet and Roy watched on in shock, wondering how they were alright, and claiming that Lucy was way out of their league already. And once the news managed to worm its way past Juvia's selective hearing well, the cleaning crew would have to remove several buckets of water from the building just from her crying, and once more declaring her worry for Gray. Several people cried out for Gray to stop her, only for him to shout out why me. Off to the side where it was somehow still warm and dry, Natsu was boasting about his fights with Cobra and his flying snake. Of course nobody believed him in the second part. Mir meanwhile approached Wendy, Naruto, let's just call them WNCK for now when they are all together. How do you do? I'm Murahin. Of course Wendy went slightly fangirl here, as she sometimes read the Weekly Sorcerer. Kurama and Naruto just shook their heads, though the latter found it amusing. I bet that Charla and Kurama are the same, as Happy Murahin began, but was interrupted by Naruto. You sure you're gonna let that one pass, Kurama? Naruto asked the orange cat next to him. Kurama was looking down, and shaking slightly. Don't compare me to that blue flying rodent, he growled out. Suddenly he transformed into a large fox with 5 tails, the awesome public transport fox, as Naruto dubbed it. Read Chapter 3, and I have had enough of being mistaken for a cat. I am a kitsune, for crying out loud. And don't go lumping me together with that blue cat, Charla shouted. Of course the only ones not backing up in fear were Naruto, Wendy, and Charla, who had expected this. Now that that is out of the way, Kurama returned to cat form whilst Naruto spoke. You were saying, Murahin-san. Oh right, what type of magic do you two use? She asked. I use sky magic, Wendy said. I am the Sky Dragon Slayer. This shocked the entire guild. And I am the Moon Dragon Slayer, Naruto said. This time the guild was heard from the city's outskirts. Wendy and Naruto looked around unsure if they would be believed, edging together to cover each other, in case things went to hell. Almost in perfect unison the entire guild shouted out how awesome that was. Wendy and Naruto actually did a double take in shock. Dragon Slayers, the guild shouted. The same as Natsu. A fat maid shouted, Reitis. But Gadgil, that means our guild has 4 Dragon Slayers, Wakaba said. Even though it is such a rare magic, Nap said. Wendy donned a happy smile at the praise whilst Naruto acted bashful. Gadgil, who had just arrived to see what the commotion was about, immediately spotted something wrong with this picture. He looked at Natsu, and saw a blue fur ball next to him. He looked at the young blue-haired girl, and saw a white fur ball next to her. He looked at the young blonde boy, and saw a gold-orange fur ball next to him. See cat WY? We're all Dragon Slayers, and yet why am I the only one without a cat? She shook in despair and jealousy. WNKC meanwhile got their guild stamps, Naruto on his shoulder in orange, with Wendy getting hers in the same place in blue. Charla got hers in pink on her back, and Kurama got his in black on his back as well. Makarov decided that it was party time, calling it the epically awesome welcoming celebration party for Wendy, Naruto, Charla, and Kurama. Already Naruto and Wendy smelled the booze being rolled in from storage. The party had barely begun when for some reason Lucy lost her bra, only to find it in Makarov's hands. She retrieved it by kicking him in the balls in rage, making every male including Naruto and Kurama wince in pain. Seeing the act of violence, Natsu began brawling, and soon most of the guild was involved in a massive battle royal with Juvia, so focused on trying to get Grey drunk, that she failed to realize that she was pouring him orange juice. Up on the stage, Mira, Elfman, and a few others were performing live music, whilst ignoring the fight happening no less than 30 feet away from them. Meanwhile, on the second floor, a man wearing a ragged blue cloak with several staffs attached to his back noticed a pair of dragon slayers, and for a brief moment, recognition was seen in his eyes before he walked off and shimmered out of sight. Had he stayed a moment longer, he would have seen Naruto and Wendy getting caught up in the fight as well, though these two tag-teamed the others. Later that day, after things had calmed down somewhat, Naruto and Wendy were standing before the mission board, trying to find a mission they could do together. Suddenly the church bells began ringing non-stop. Up on the balcony Natsu cried out in joy, an action taken up by several others in the guild. Gilderts is back. Who's Gilderts? Wendy asked Lucy. No idea. I have never met him before. Lucy said. Fairy Tail's strongest mage. Mira told her. No way even stronger than Ursa. Lucy said in shock. I am not even close to his league. The Redeed mentioned with a smile. How dangerous is this guy? Lucy asked, shivering in fear. Everyone, please prepare for Gildert's shift. They heard several flying loudspeakers call out. The heck is Gildert's shift? Naruto asked. Go outside, and you'll find out. Mira said, smiling. After doing that, Naruto and Wendy, as well as Kurama and Charla, and not to forget Lucy, were all shocked when the city became segmented, and moved to reveal a channel line with arrows running right down the middle of it. The corridor even split apart a few buildings. And down this new corridor came a single person wearing a ragged black cloak. Is this really necessary? Naruto asked. Gilderts uses crash magic. He has been known to walk right through buildings whenever he isn't paying attention. Urza explained. Which is most of the time whenever he is traveling. Mira added, as though it was a good thing. In other words, he is an idiot, Charla said. Sounds like it. Naruto agreed. Wendy just thought that it was cool. A few minutes later the man in question finally arrived, and was looking around. Excuse me, young lady. There used to be a mages guild called Fairy Tail here. Do you know where it went? He asked Mira. Welcome back, Gilderts. She just answered. Do I know you? He asked. After a few moments he recalled a rather snobby goth emo, who shared an uncanny resemblance to this white-haired chick. Mira? He asked, eyes the size of tennis balls. Then this really is before he could finish, Natsu came barreling right for him from the second floor. Gilderts. Fight me. Natsu roared, hands and feet aflame. Maybe later. Gilder said, catching his wrist and throwing him over his shoulder into the ceiling with a completely bored expression. This is crazy, Naruto murmured. Even Ursa wasn't on this level yet. Natsu came by my place later. I bought some souvenirs. Gilder said, nonchalantly walking into a wall and going right through it. Oh, use the damn door, will ya? Some of the guild members shouted. Oh, this is going to be fun. Natsu said, having returned to earth from his trip to the ceiling. He smashed another bit of the wall with a flaming fist and waltzed out through the resulting hole. Come on, Happy. Let's go see what he has to say. Aye, sir, came the answer. Reminds me of someone Kurama mused, thinking back to his previous host in the Elemental Nations. Kushina used to do the same things back in the day, especially back in the academy, when she was daydreaming about Minato. It took her and Minato 3 years after becoming Chunin to pay back the debt she built up in her time there. A few days later, Naruto and Wendy were walking through the streets of Magnolia, returning from a mission where they had to help track down and capture a family of wild boar, something they had done before a couple of times. Suddenly the sky darkened, and they heard thunder, and, as such, decided to return to the guild before the rain started. As they approached the guild building, a man stepped in their way. It was the same person who had noticed their presence during their welcoming party. Wendy, Naruto, Kurama said. Naruto, Wendy, and Kurama all went wide-eyed at the sound of his voice, which was damn similar to someone they know. Wendy said. Charla went straight-tailed and rigid when she recognized the voice. I never thought that the three of you would come to this guild. The unknown man said, before removing his mask and cap. Wendy and Naruto inhaled sharply. Joel. What the hell? What is the meaning of this? I thought you were imprisoned. Charla said. That is a different person. Joel said. I mean, you clearly Joel. Charla said. Naruto nodded in agreement. I am Mystigan, a member of Fairy Tail. Joel Mystigan said. Naruto almost called him bullshit until 7 years ago while I knew hardly anything about this world. I gave my name to you three, as Joel. Everyone stared at him. This world. Charla said. I get it, you're a dimensional traveler, as well. Kurama said. Naruto's eyes widened at that realization. Mystigan nodded in agreement. Suddenly the thunder began intensifying. Sorry for not being able to see you, but now isn't the time for happy reunions. Jelil said, urgency in his voice, before suddenly falling to his knees. An aim has grown too large for my powers alone to suppress it. Misogen said. Naruto Kurama suddenly said, pointing to the sky. What is it? Naruto slowed down, seeing what was going on. Before long, Magnolia will be wiped out, Misogen continued, noticing, as well. What do you mean? Wendy asked. I don't know what you're saying at all. He is saying that everything will be destroyed. Naruto said, still looking at the sky, which was starting to give off an odd glow. No? I just got a new family. I will not lose this one, Wendy shouted, beginning to run towards the guild. Wendy, Naruto shouted, jumping after her just as a massive amount of magical energy fell from the odd cloud formation in a mass of white light. Kurama, having a bad feeling about this, jumped into the sea, hoping that if he released his chakra from within Naruto, he'd at least try to save him. He was still a few meters away from Wendy when the white light touched the ground. In a massive implosion, everything disappeared. Moments later, when Wendy regained her eyesight after being blinded by the brightness, all she saw was large expanses of white powder. No way, she stammered. The guild has vanished, so has the city. What in the world has happened? She looked around, realizing she was alone. Naruto? She said. Naruto. The groan came from beneath her, where she saw a pile of the white powder start rising underneath her butt. Wendy squeaked and jumped off before helping to remove the dust from Naruto. What the hell happened? Naruto said, rising to his feet, only to be sent crashing to the floor via flying hug from Wendy Express. And what was that heavy load on my head just now? Naruto. She cried out in relief, ignoring the second bit. Still on the floor, he eventually returned the hug, once Kurama, who revealed himself to have gone back into the sea moments before whatever it had happened, had explained the situation to him. After a while, Wendy calmed down and helped Naruto to his feet. Come on, let's see if we can find anyone else. Naruto said, taking her hand in his, and pulling her along towards where the guild had been. After a few minutes of searching, Naruto tripped over something, only for them to find out it was Natsu, who was still sleeping, as though nothing had happened. Wendy and Naruto tried poking him, shaking him, shouting at him, but they couldn't get him to wake up. Eventually, Naruto had an idea. Natsu, someone is picking a fight. He said out loud, and to Wendy's utter bewilderment, Natsu woke up, looking around, searching for said fight. After trying to explain the situation to Natsu, who had just as much trouble accepting it, Wendy, Charla, and Happy showed up, revealing themselves to be unharmed, as well. Charla explained that Anima was the hole in the sky from earlier, and that it is the gateway to a parallel world known as Idolas. But why are you and Happy alright? I mean, you said we possibly survived due to us being dragon slayers, but none of you were taught any dragon slaying magic. Naruto asked. I've no blue cat, and I come from the other world, Idolas. Charla revealed. She then went about explaining some things about Idolas, including that they might not be able to use their magic there. Despite that, they decided to go there anyway, and save their friends. Therefore, Happy was tasked with carrying both Natsu and Naruto, which he was easily able to do, whilst Wendy flew with Charla. One rodeo-like trip later, they were flying through an unknown landscape, with floating islands, floating rivers that even had fish in them, much to Happy's delight. Suddenly both Happy and Charla lost their wings, sending them all plummeting to the earth. What the hell? Natsu shouted. Wendy screamed, Happy and Charla were shouting in fear, and Naruto was imitating sitting with crossed legs. His face showed a cross between pissed off and bored. I always knew that gravity sucked, he said. This is going to hurt. Thanks for watching my video, leave a like if you enjoyed my video, and also do consider subscribing to my channel for more awesome content. See you next time, till then sayonara.